On November 8th, 2005, a 22-year-old young man named Kenton Carnegie, who was a geological engineering student working at the Points North Landing uranium mine in Saskatchewan, Canada, decided he wanted to go for a little bit of an outdoor nature walk. See, Kenton, he was an amateur photographer. He loved taking pictures of animals and just outdoor scenes. It's just really what he liked to do after work. And on this particular day, that is what he wanted to do. So he went and he talked to his supervisor and he asked permission to go on this walk by himself. And his supervisor would end up giving him permission, although his supervisor did kind of try and discourage him from doing that, saying that they thought maybe it wasn't the best idea, but if he really wanted to, he could. In addition to that, there was a bush pilot, same bush pilot that initially flew Kenton into this location. And Kenton talked to that guy before he left camp. And that bush pilot told Kenton he didn't think it was a good idea either. He thought Kenton should just stay around and play games with him and the boys. He said, it's really cold out there. It's below zero. And we've seen a lot of wildlife in the area. Black bears, wolves have been hanging around this dump. I just don't think it's really safe. But it really didn't deter Kenton. He was determined on going out, walking to this lake to take these pictures. And so at about 5 p.m., Kenton set off, walking off into the snow, sub-zero temperatures, with only his camera to take these pictures. And before he left, he told the people at camp he would be back by 7 p.m. for dinner. But when Kenton wasn't back by 7 p.m., people started to worry. And when he wasn't back by 7:30 p.m., people were really worried. And at that point, a supervisor at the mine, he gathered up two other guys and they got in a pickup truck and they followed his tracks, Kenton's tracks, out into the snow to go and try and find him, to go and try and recover him. Well, after some distance, they came upon something alarming, because at some point they were no longer just following Kenton's tracks. They noticed that off from the side, there was another set of tracks and it came right up behind Kenton's. So whatever this thing was, it was following him and it looked to be wolf tracks. Well, these guys, they continued on following these tracks. They got about a kilometer away down to the edge of this lake, and they followed this slew of tracks all over the place until eventually they came upon something that they didn't initially recognize. It just looked like this mass in the snow. It was surrounded in red, what looked to be blood. And these guys, they didn't really get out and investigate any closer. They were about 30 meters away, but they thought they knew what they were looking at. And if they were truly looking at what they thought they were looking at, it would not have been safe for them to get out of the truck and go up to this thing and investigate it. So what they did instead is they got in the truck, they turned the truck around, and they went back to camp and they got a rifle. And then they went back out. And when they went back out, they got out of the truck and they walked up to whatever this thing was. And sure enough, what it was Kenton. He was lying there in a giant swath of blood in the snow. His entire torso had been completely opened up. All of his ribs were showing. He was missing various parts of his body, parts of his face. His nose were gone. His throat was torn open. He had massive damage all over the place. Something had clearly attacked him, and then something had clearly been eating him. And all around him, surrounding him, everywhere, there were wolf tracks. Well, these guys, they got a coroner out there, they got investigators out there, law enforcement out there, they gathered up Kenton, and while they were in the process of gathering up Kenton's remains, they're looking out with their flashlights into the woods, and they just saw two pairs of glowing eyes from two different animals. And then, ominously, these wolves all around them began to howl, like loudly howl. And so again, they were pretty sure they knew what happened to Kenton. Well, these investigators, when they went out there with the coroner, they're basically able to recreate what happened, because again, they're in the snow. They can follow all the tracks from the time that he left camp all the way until the time when he met his fate. And through following those tracks, they were able to basically recreate what happened. You see, before Kenton had gotten to that lake, which again was about a kilometer away, a single wolf had begun to track him. It came in right behind him and it started following him. Now, at this point, it's probably unlikely that Kenton knew that that was happening. But there were 3 other wolves. There was one off in the woods to one side of him and 2 off in the woods to another side of him. And this small 4-wolf pack was tracking Kenton this whole time. Now, at some point, Kenton apparently realized he was being stalked. I don't know if he must have saw one of them, and he decided to double back, try and retreat, try and run away. So he turns around and he begins to make his way back towards camp. And then at some point, for whatever reason, whatever the catalyst was, he started to run. And again, they know that because of the tracks in the snow. They could tell the distance between the tracks. He started trying to run through the snow. Well, that is not what you want to do if you're ever confronted by these timber wolves, because these things run at 40 miles per hour and they can keep up that pace for quite some time. You're not going to outrun them. And when you start running, you are definitely signaling to them you are a prey item. They estimate that he ran for about 7 seconds, just judging by the amount of steps that he took, before that first wolf that had been tracking him came running up behind him, grabbed him, and took him to the ground. And again, they can see this by these scuffle marks in the snow. They know there was a fight. They know the wolf took him down. They know they were fighting there. There's blood there. But Kenton, initially, he got away from this single wolf. He got up again and he started running again. He didn't make it very far before the wolf took him down again. And, I can't tell you all the details about the attack. We, of course, don't know that. The only person that was there was Kenton. All we know is based off the tracks and the blood marks and scuffle marks in the snow. So this is just our best guess at what happened. But we do know he got away initially. He started running again. He was taken down a second time. And at this point, we know from all the other tracks that the other wolves were converging on him. Well, Kenton must have fought very hard, which is incredible because these animals are anywhere between normally like 100 and 150 pounds. I mean, they're big, massive, powerful animals. It's amazing he was able to fight it off even once, but he fought it off a second time. He got up, he started running again. And he kind of tried to run in like a semicircle because at this point they think, based on the tracks, that the other 2 wolves were out in front of him, or 2 of the other 3 wolves were out in front of him. So he tried to run around them. This didn't work. The wolves all converged on him and he was taken down for a third time. But yet again, he was able to fight them off. Now, there's a lot of blood at this third scene, so we know he was heavily wounded. Again, who knows how much damage they did to him, how many times they bit him, and where. There's a lot of blood. We know he was heavily injured, but he got up for a third and final time. And he started to run again, and then all 4 wolves came in, converged on him, and took him down for a fourth and final time. And this time, we know that was the last time. This is the site where they found his body. And again, he's lying in a large swath of blood. We know from the coroner eventually was able to figure out that the fatal wound that actually killed Kenton was one of the wolves grabbed him by the throat and took his throat out. We know that was the fatal wound, but they did a lot more damage than that. As I said, they opened up his chest, they opened up his stomach. He was missing a lot of his face and a lot of other parts of his body the wolves had predated on. After this event, after this whole investigation was launched, they did determine, this was definitely wolves. There was no foul play. This was definitely an animal attack done by wolves. It was like the first one in North America that had been recorded for, I think, almost a century, the first fatal one anyways, but they were able to determine that that is for sure what it was. They sent out some hunters. They killed 2 of the wolves. One of those wolves would end up having some human remains inside of it, so they're sure that it was one of them. As far as I know, the other 2 wolves were not hunted down. Anybody that ever is in a scenario like this, It is incredibly uncommon, but again, with almost every predator, the last thing that you want to do with these animals is turn your back to them and run away. And that's true with bears, it's true with cougars, it's true with wolves, it's true with lions, it's true with most predatory animals. Because as soon as you do that, and I'm not blaming him for making that decision, but your best bet, if you're ever facing one of these animals, just stand and fight. Because as soon as you turn your back and run, you're not going to win that. They're going to chase you down. They're much faster than you are. They can run much longer than you can, and they're much stronger than you. Look big, look intimidating, and fight with all that you have.